Last class, we started with scope management, a planning process group, and also with the scope management knowledge area. We discussed about the first three planning processes. Before that, the objective for a project manager when it comes to scope management is to ensure that we will do all the work required and only the work required to do the project successfully. So for that, we are having 4 planning processes and 2 monitoring and controlling processes. Plan scope management, the first planning process in any knowledge area, is about setting the methodology for the remaining processes in that knowledge area, and the output will be subsidiary plans of the project management plan. So we discussed about 2 subsidiary plans of the project management plan as the output from plan scope management. These 2 outputs are scope management plan and requirements management plan. We discussed about scope management plan and requirements management plan. That is the output from plan scope management. Then we discussed about collect requirements. That is the actual first planning process. As a team, the responsibility of developing the project plan is with the team. Overall guidance will be from the project manager. So the team will start involving in the planning process with collect requirements. So you will work with the stakeholders and you will collect their requirements, and you will document in requirements management plan, which is one of the outputs from collect requirements, which is used for further planning processes. Another one is requirements traceability matrix, that is used in monitoring and controlling. Define scope. Once you have the requirements, we discussed in the last class the difference between requirements and scope. Requirements is a required capability the customer or the user is looking for in a product or service, and the scope is what the team will do to fulfill that particular requirement. We discussed a simple example. I want a capability by which I can write on screen, and that is my requirement as a customer. Then the project team's scope is to manufacture a writing board, for example. That's about defined scope. We discussed only one output from defined scope, that is project scope statement, right? This is a detailed version of a project charter. Project charter will have the high-level information, whereas project scope statement will have the detailed project scope. Then we started discussing create WBS. WBS stands for work breakdown structure. Most of you mentioned you are using WBS in your projects. So we are focusing on the examination concepts, what you want to know for the PMP examination regarding WBS. So these 4, are the planning processes. Now, before I go and talk about the details of WBS, continue with WBS, one of the points you have to know for the examination, already we discussed about this, is we follow PDCA approach in following the processes in our project. Plan, do, check, act. You should have this understanding for the PMP examination. So PDCA we already discussed in the previous sessions. We put a plan and we implement that in execution plan. This is do, this is check and act. This is about check and act. If you see for scope, schedule and cost, we don't have do or execution processes. What does that mean? We are not going to do or implement the scope what we prepared, or the schedule what we put together, or the budget what we are finalizing. Obviously we are going to execute, but the concept theoretically is a little bit different. So normally in a project, once you finish with the scope planning processes, you don't go for execution. You will continue with the planning processes. At the end, you will compile the key outputs into a project management plan. That's what we discussed, 23 plus 1, 24 planning processes. So you'll have a compiled project management plan. Project management plan includes scope, schedule, and cost, which will be implemented in the execution through direct and manage project work. So the scope of the work will be done as per the schedule with the required budget in direct and manage project work. For these three knowledge area planning processes, you have to know the doing is happening in direct and manage project work process. So don't think because there are no execution processes for scope, schedule, and cost, there is no doing part. There is doing part, but the only thing is it is not shown specifically in scope, schedule, and cost. Doing is done or execution is done through direct and manage project work. This understanding is important to answer questions in the examination. So with that overview, let's continue our discussion from the last class about create WBS, work breakdown structure. So we discussed about a simple example, PMP examination as our project, and we have decomposed it to various levels like before, while, and after. Then before to training, application, preparation. Same thing you can do for while. We just put it as ABCD, and after EFG, and training we further decomposed into register, attend, get course completion certificate, application into fill the PMP application, fill exam, booking application, then preparation, review the class videos, practice questions in LMS, take the mock examination, etc. Right. So then we discussed about the number of levels. PMP exam is level 1, before, while, after is level 2, training, application, preparation, etc. is level 3, and so on. How many levels you can have in a WBS? There is no hard and fast rule, but the good practice is 3 to 7 levels. Less than 3 levels, you will not have that much of details. More than 7 levels, it will be too much of information. So the point you have to know for the examination is, as a project manager, as a project team, you have to decide maximum how many levels are required for my project. As I told you, register also I can decompose into like fill the form, do this, etc. But my objective here is to pass the PMP examination, so I can plan for my work at this level. So I'll stop there. So many new project managers, they struggle with micromanagement. They are into the details. You have to be you have to look into the required level of details. However, you should not lose the big picture of the project. When you are starting to do the micromanagement, you will not have the time, or you will forget to look into the big picture of the project. One of the major problems of going to the detailed or details upon details is that leads to micromanagement. So that you have to avoid. So there is a level, so there is a name for every level of WBS. First level is always your project name. You will start with your project. That is level 1 here. PMP exam is my project. 2, second level will be your major deliverables. Right? So second level will be major deliverables. So level 1, project name. Level 2, major deliverables. If you remember the concept we discussed in the last class, major deliverables of the project will be documented in the scope statement. So one of the inputs for creating your work breakdown structure is your project scope statement. The name of the project, as well as the key deliverables of the project, you will have it in your scope statement. So first 2 levels usually you will get from your project scope statement. Then third level, we call it as components of the deliverables. What are the components of before exam? Training, application, preparation. And further levels are subcomponents, subcomponents, and so on. So we will take it as subcomponents. One of the important points you have to know for the examination, is activities of the project are not part of the WBS. Activities of a project are not part of WBS. So here I put this, in different color in the last class to tell you they are the activities of the project. How will you know is it an activity or not? Activities will normally start with the verb, action, register, attend, get the completion certificate, fill the application, fill the exam booking. Whereas your WBS levels will be nouns. If it is an action, you will need time, money, resources to manage it. So the activities will be part of your project schedule. So the lowest level of WBS is one level prior to the activities known as work packages. In my example, these are the work packages. So assume there are 7 levels in your WBS. Assume, not this example, for examination purpose. 4th level will be subcomponents, 5th level will be subcomponents, 6th level will be subcomponents, and 7th level will be work packages. You have to know this because there can be questions in the examination based on work packages. So keep in mind, activities are not part of your WBS. The lowest level of WBS is one level prior to the activities known as work packages. Assume your WBS is having only 5 levels. Then 5th level is the work package. Whatever number of levels you are having, the lowest level will be always work packages. Why work packages are important to know for the PMP examination? Planning usually is done at the work package level, right? Usually it will be done at the work package level. You may have n number of activities. Under each work package, you can have 10, 15, 20, whatever number of activities. But, normally we do the planning here. Okay, training, 45 hours. Then further detailed planning will be in the schedule. And that is the budget. These are the resources required. So we do the planning at the work package level. So remember this, lowest level of WBS is work package. You will know whether it is a work package or not. When you are decomposing, if you are going to get an action, verb, next, you will stop the decomposition there and you'll say that is my work package. Next level is going to be activities. I'll put that in the schedule. This is theoretical. Practically speaking, you will decompose up to the up to the activities, because you are going to create your WBS in a scheduling tool like Primavera or Microsoft Project, but theoretically keep it separate. So here we have WBS, here we have activities. Activities obviously are the extension of work packages, but they won't be kept as part of WBS. That's the next important point you have to know for the PMP examination. Before is a branch, while is a branch, after is a branch in this example. How many branches you can have in a WBS? It depends on your project. If you are having 10 deliverables, right, at level 2, you'll have 10 branches. There is no rule about the limitation. In this example, I have 3 branches, before, while, and after. So next concept is about the branches. It is not mandatory you should have same number of levels in all the branches. For example, branch 1, you may decompose up to the 7th level to get its work package. However, because we decomposed branch 1 to 7 levels, it's not mandatory you have to decompose all other branches also up to 7th level. Maybe in branch 2, you will get the work package at the 4th level itself. You will stop there. Branch 3, you may want to go up to maybe 9th level to get its work package, right? 3 to 7 levels is for guidance. In a real-time project, depends on the project, you may have more than 7 or less than 7. I have worked in projects with more than 10 levels of WBS. But that was the necessity. We have to go to that level to get the required information. So, work package of a particular branch will be the lowest level of that branch. All the branches may not have work packages at the same level. So branch 1 work package could be at the 7th level, branch 2 could be at 5th level or 4th level, branch 3 could be at 9th level. So whatever the lowest level of that branch will be the work package for it. Next point. Each WBS element will have a unique identifier. This unique identifier is known as code of accounts. This unique identifier is known as code of accounts. Why it is known as code of accounts? Because that ID is used to track the progress, the performance of those elements later when you are in execution and monitoring and controlling. So PMP exam, normally a project will have a code, project code. Project code will be the code of accounts at the project level. Like I worked in a project called Pump Station 25, the ID was PS25. So that will be the code for the project level PS25. So here we'll simply take it as PE. PE is the code for PMP exam. Now, when you go to level 2, I have 3 elements. There is a format you have to follow for code of accounts. So always you will put it as PE dash, PE dash, PE dash. So the first level will continue to the second level and you will add an ID to the second level, right? Before exam, again, depends on the project you are in, the component or deliverable you are having. You may have some ID, but simply I can go here as BE or BR or BM, or simply I can put P-01, P-02 and P-03. That will be the code of accounts or ID for level 2. So someone is having a look into that, they will easily understand, okay, these are level 2 elements. Under P, P is your project name or project code, project ID, PMP exam here. Type in the chat box. If you follow this format, what will be the ID for training? If you follow this format, what will be the ID for training? So like how we followed level 1 at level 2, level 3 should follow level 2 code, PE-01. You will not change the format. Since we put PE-01, next it won't be a dot, it will be also a dash. So format will continue. PE-01 dash, yeah. So dash 1 or 01, yeah, or dash A. Yes, it's up to you, how you want to use it, but you got the idea. All of you are using the, so again, not dot, it will be dash. If you follow dash, it will be the same format. So I will go for a simple ID as most of you mentioned. Yes, it will be PE-01-01. It will be PE-01-02, PE-01-03, and so on. Right? This is about code of accounts. However, many organizations, they have a standard code of accounts, right? You may not able to use 01, 02, 03. For example, assume this is the design component and the standard code of account is DG. This is a tendering component, so TR. This is construction CR, assume for a construction project. So then you cannot use 01, 02, 03. You have to use the same ID, P-DG, P-TR, P-CR. So same thing, and it goes here, it will be P-DG-D01, DG. So everybody in the organization, they know DG means design component. Okay, design component under PE for project PE, PMP exam in this case. Easy to align. Question. In your project or for your project, to know whether we have to follow a standard code of account or not, whom you will follow, sorry, whom you will contact, who will be having this in your organization, right? I think all of us, we know by this time whom we have to contact in the organization to know whether there is a standard code of account or not. PMO, right? PMO will be providing this. They will be having this information. Sometimes your finance department also may have this, right? They have their own coding structure and they may have this information as well, right? If not, as a project manager, you set a standard. What should be the ID like, right? You set a standard and you follow that, right? Next, how will you know your decomposition is complete? For example, before the exam, I decomposed to training, application, preparation. Is it anything missing there? To know whether my decomposition is complete or not, we are following something called 100% rule. You have to know this for the exam as well as for your project. What is this 100% rule? If I have a component as A and I am decomposing into A1, A2, A3, when I finish with A1, A2, A3, 100% of A is done or complete, right? So I registered for the training. I attended 45 hours of training, got my course completion certificate. Training work package is 100% complete. I filled these two applications. Application is 100% done. I did all this. Preparation is 100% done. I'm done with training, application, and preparation. Before exam is 100% done. Before, well, and after it's done, PMP exam requirements is 100% done. So it's that easy. So I can go and check, is this representing 100% of A? Check with your experts. For example, if it is training, you can contact an organization like B-Site. They can help you to understand, yes, this is complete or something you are missing, or someone already attended a PMP training in your organization. They can help you to know whether this is a complete decomposition or not. So the experts are saying this is 40%, this is 30%, this is 20%. That leads to 20% of A, that leads to 90%. That means something is missing. Brainstorm with your team and you may know which is A4, another 10%. That is now 100% of A. So by 100%, by following 100% rule, you are ensuring you are not missing anything in the planning stage. Keep in mind, that's important for the exam as well as for your project. In a predictive project, your project planning is based on WBS. One of the advantages of WBS is there is no loophole to miss anything during the planning stage. At some level in the WBS that is captured. Now, if something is not part of WBS, that's an examination point. If something is not part of WBS, that is outside the scope of your project. That doesn't fit to the project scope. So I'm saying that I have to read a project management book of 2000 pages. Maybe that is good for me to improve my knowledge, but it is not here in this WBS. That means outside the scope. We don't want to do it in this project. This is further extension of your scope statement. So, in fact, WBS provides the total scope of the project. WBS provides the total scope of the project. Right. Any questions so far? These are the key points you have to know for the examination. Next, something called rolling wave planning. What is rolling wave planning? In this example, PMP exam project, we are in the first deliverable before exam. And in that, we are in the first work package training. And then we can decompose to activities later. So, at this stage, we may not know what exactly we'll be doing after the examination to maintain the PMP certification. We may not know what we will do after the exam to maintain the PMP certification. In fact, it is not required at this level. So, in your projects also, you will have two categories of work: near future work and far future work. Here in this example, before the exam is near future work, after the exam is far future work. For a near future work, you will have enough information so you can decompose your details till the work package level. But for a far future work, in this case, after the exam, you may not have enough information to decompose up to the lowest level. Here, assume EFG is not the lowest level. It has to be further decomposed. Since we are in an early stage of the project, this is a far future work. I cannot decompose it now into further details, so I will leave the decomposition a higher level. Later, when that work or far future work becomes a near future work, now I finished my PMP exam, I successfully completed my PMP exam. Okay, this now becomes a near future work. I should have, or I'll have more clarity at this stage. Okay, I have this much of budget, I have to get 60 PDUs, these are the activities, these are the aspects I'm going to look into, maybe some seminars, some training programs, etc. I have enough information, I can decompose further into various levels up to its work packages, let's say work package 1, work package 2, etc. This process of repeated nature of planning the near future work in detail and far future work in higher level, and later when that far future work becomes a near future work, then you plan in detail. This is called rolling wave planning. Rolling wave planning is a recurring nature of planning. In fact, rolling wave planning is a form of progressive elaboration. It's a form of progressive elaboration. What is progressive elaboration? We discussed in the second class. In a step-by-step manner, you get into more details of the project. Same thing. So step-by-step manner, you are planning in detail, right? So rolling wave planning is planning near future work in detail and far future work in a higher level. Later, when far future work becomes a near future work, you will plan in detail. That is called rolling wave planning. It is a form of progressive elaboration. It's a form of progressive elaboration, right? Is that clear? This understanding you need to have. By the way, if you leave your decomposition in a higher level, right here, EFG, they are not your work packages. I have to further decompose, but I don't have information, so I'm leaving in a higher level. Then those components are known as planning package. In this example, EFG are 3 planning packages, whereas training, application, preparation are work packages. So if you leave your decomposition in a higher level, that level is called planning package. Then when you decompose that later, in that details become clear, into further details, you will get work packages, right? So we discussed about planning package. Next concept is about control account. What is this control account? Here is my WBS. In this case, I have only few levels. But when it comes to your project, there will be a number of levels, like maybe 7, 8, 6, depends, and a lot. Someone like a project manager who is engaging in the project, it is important for the project manager to know everything in detail. Like, how is the class happening? Is it going as per the schedule, etc.? Project manager and the team want to know. But someone outside the project, a stakeholder outside the project, maybe within the organization or outside the organization, they are not interested into the minute details of your project. That is up to the project manager and the team to take care of. They will be interested to know the performance of the project at a certain level of WBS. It will be always higher level, either deliverable level or 1 or 2 levels below that, depends on the project you are in. Assume in this particular example, the stakeholders want to know the performance of the project at the deliverable level. Like, is before the exam all going good? Will the candidates or the members of the team, they will assume this training is happening in a corporate setup for the project team members. Will my team members will go for the exam on time? That's what they are interested in knowing. Like, what are the minute details? Are they submitting the application on time? Are they getting the approval on time? This is all for the project team and the project manager to deal with. But stakeholders want to know, before the exam. how much we are spending there. Is it as per the budget? How much time we are spending there? Is it as per the schedule? Is the scope, is there any change in scope, etc.? So we'll roll up the performance of the project to a particular level, and that level is known as control account. So control account is the level where you will roll up the project performance and you will report. Project performance will be calculated using something called earned value management. We will talk about earned value management later in our project. We'll talk about EVM later in our project, how to calculate the performance, right? So I repeat, control account is the level in the WBS where the project performance is rolled up for reporting to the stakeholders and even for monitoring as well. That's about control account. These are the key points. Maybe one or two, we will talk about that in the slides. The name of the technique by which we bring an additional level from an existing level is known as decomposition. Question. The WBS is a decomposition of project activities. Is it a true or a false statement? Type A if you think it's a true statement, B it's a false statement. WBS is a decomposition of project activities. Okay, so far the answers are, this is a false statement. Okay, some of you are mentioning it's a true statement. Okay, false. So like 50-50. The right answer is, this is a false statement. Your activities are not even part of WBS. We discussed the lowest level of WBS is your work package. So it's not a list of tasks. Keep in mind, WBS is not a list of tasks. The tasks or activities are not even part of WBS. They are in your schedule. We'll talk about that later. So then, what is the definition of WBS? WBS is a decomposition of dash. Type in the chat box. So I asked a question. WBS is a decomposition of project activities. We discussed that is a false statement. Yes, it's a decomposition of scope, but specifically what? It's a decomposition of, no, work packages is the lowest level in WBS. Project is too general. So we are not decomposing work package. That is the lowest level. The right answer is, it is the decomposition of project deliverables. What you are having in the highest level, deliverables, which you are further decomposing till the work package level. So you should know for the exam, WBS is a decomposition of project deliverables. Next point is for your project as well. What is the format, structure of WBS? Let's talk about a construction project. I can create WBS in different formats. Format 1 could be, or the structure, different structures in fact. Name of the project, that will be always level 1. Then I can put it as phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 1 details, phase 2, phase 3 details I can decompose. Or name of the project, level 1. Level 2, I can make it like the technical work, right? So civil work, electrical work, mechanical work, etc. Then I can decompose it further. Or name of the project in level 1. Level 2 can be the workflow, say design, tendering, construction, handover, closing. Then I can decompose it further. Or it can be according to the department. So what I'm telling you is, the same project you can decompose, or you can structure, you can have different structures for WBS. What is the optimum structure? The right answer is the way how you are managing your project. Yes, all of them will be hierarchy, by the way. All of them will be hierarchy. As I told you, phase 1 into details, phase 2 into details. That is also hierarchy. And if you put like technical work, that is also hierarchy. But what should be the format of the hierarchy? This is a key point for the exam as well as for your project. In what way you are managing your project? The structure of the WBS should be in the same way. If you are managing the project according to the phases, create your WBS as per the phases. If you are managing your project as per the technical work, create the WBS according to the technical work. So it should be helpful for the team first, then for other purposes. When my team is having a look into my WBS, they will know, right, oh, this is what we are doing. Now we are in training, we are doing this. So the structure of WBS should be the way how you are doing your work, organizing your work. Next question. WBS. From the WBS, you will know the sequence in which you're going to do the work. For example, first I will do training, then I will do application, or application preparation I'll do in parallel. I will know this information from WBS. Type A, if you think this is a true statement. Type B, if you think it's a false statement. From the WBS, you will know the sequence of the work. First you will do this, or these two you will do in parallel. Is it a true statement or a false statement? Okay, the first answer is this is a false statement. Second answer also false. And the right answer is this is a false statement, not true, not true. In WBS, you will not know about the sequence. Sequence, you will know from the schedule. When you put these activities in the schedule, you will sequence it, and WBS is just the breakdown of the work. It's a breakdown of the work, that's it. What order it will be done? It will be done in parallel or not. These things you will not know from WBS. This is like a graphical format. Having a look will tell you, like organization chart, right? Organization chart shows who is in what level, that's it. Same way here, how the work is broken down, that's it. These are the key points you have to know for the examination regarding WBS. Any questions before we start with the slides? Right? Again, it's not that difficult. Maybe you have to have a look into this part, the first 30 minutes, 35 minutes, one more time to understand WBS for the exam. So all of you are using WBS, as I mentioned in the last class. Have you got any new points for the examination from our discussion, or it is almost the same like what you know earlier about WBS? A means you got some additional points for the exam. B means no, it's almost the same like what I know before about WBS. Just to know your feedback. A. Okay, great. So anyway, we discussed a bit theoretically for the examination purpose. With that, let's go into details. Same thing. Any new points I will explain to you. So here I have my key deliverables: analyze, design, build, test, deliver. And then, as I told you, level 1 is always project name. Level 2 is how you are organizing. This project is organized like in this way: analyze, design, then you are further decomposing. Here is an example. As I told you, this is in fact simplified version of WBS. I have level 1 as project name, level 2 project management, requirements gathering, etc. And only the fourth item in level 2 I'm decomposing into level 3. Same way you will decompose every item to level 3. And from level 3, only the second item I'm decomposing to level 4, that is my work package. Similarly, other elements also you will decompose to level 4. Some of the elements may have level 5 as well. As I told you, work packages can be in different levels. Assume like you are having the complete WBS here, then it will be complex, right? Depends on the project you are in. It can be complex. Another point to know for the exam is, it is always better to keep project management as a branch of WBS. In addition to the project work, you are doing some management work. You should have, that is also in scope. You will need resources. There will be timeline for that. So it is better to put that in WBS. We know it's important. Anything not in WBS is not in the scope of the project. So where you are going to capture your project management work? In the initiation, to develop a charter, you identify the stakeholders, so you have to conduct meetings, etc. Put that in project management. During planning, you have to develop different types of plans. You have to get permits, you have to get approvals. Put that in project management. Execution, what management work you have to do? Generating reports, going for site inspections, or depends on the project, like checking and so on. Put it under project. In monitoring controlling, you are conducting monthly meetings, you are generating, you are transmitting the reports, you are managing changes, all these put there. Closing, again, preparing the final report, handover, everything can put under closing in project management. So keep that as that's a good practice. For the PMP exam, unless specified, your WBS will have a branch for project management. Okay, here is another exam. Yes, do you have a question?
For the rolling and waving planning package, we describe about the work package and planning packages, right?
Yes.
So planning packages, we can show once the WBS is created, we can show it like that, right? We just put it in empty without activity.
Yes. So for example, here, testing and production. For example, I don't have enough information. I'm not going to decompose it further. I'll leave it there. All of this I'm going to decompose to the work package, and that is my planning package, right? So I can note that this is my planning package, and later I will decompose it further. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. So for some cases, we based on the schedule, we prepare the construction means registers also, right, for the monitoring and progress measurement system. So that time we can put it as empty, and later once the project reach that time, we can add these activities and we can monitor separately for that one, right?
You can put it empty if you don't have enough information to decompose.
Okay, sir.
And later, when you are going to do that work, you should have information, right? You'll have enough information to do the detailed planning, then you will decompose further. If I understood your question correctly?
Yeah, understood. So for example, we are for a power plant, so we can make the schedule up to construction complete. Then the startup and so pre-commission and startup, we have no information currently, so we can make it at empty. Then that time we can add these activities. So how we can include the overall progress measurement system or?
Okay. So now I got your question. Okay. So maybe another point to know, does that mean you will not do the planning for the planning package? You will do the planning, but a high level plan. For example, if I go back to my WBS here, training, I know it is going to take 45 hours. So let's say 15 or 5 weeks. I can do a detailed planning. Application, because I have the, work packages, I will finish in 1 week. Preparation, I will finish in another, let's say 3 to 5 weeks. I'm doing a detailed planning. However, when it comes to the planning package, right? Planning package, this is a high level, component. It is not a detailed component like your work package. So the planning will be done at that level, not in detail level. For example, I know after the exam, I have 3 years time to get the required PDUs and renew my PMP certification. But I don't know what exactly I will be doing to get that 60 PDU. So what I'll do is, I'll do a high-level planning. This component I will do in the first year, this component second year, this component third year, and budget for this is X amount, Y amount, Z amount. But exactly what will be the duration of a specific thing I'm doing, I don't know. So when you're doing the overall plan or initial planning, this high-level plan will be there for the planning package. Detailed plan will be there for work package.
Okay.
I think now this answered your question, right?
That's clear. So 3 years we can put it separately. That time we can monitor and we can.
Yes. Now in this 1 year or first year, what I'm going to do, I don't know. Later when I decompose, I'll say this I will do in 3 weeks, this I will do in 5 weeks, etc. But all these together will be 1 year.
1 year.
Which is a high level plan. So I got a question. So if I don't have enough details, how I will do the overall planning? This is the answer. For the work package, detailed planning. For the planning package, high level planning.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Clear?
Clear.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Any other questions? Right. So I'm going to take this as an example to show you how it will be done in a project management software like Primavera or Microsoft Project. This is about time sharing system project where I have 4 components or deliverables: project management, requirement specifications, etc. And here are my work packages. When you're going to show it in the software, this is Microsoft Project. The name of the project is here, TSS, but it should be here as well. By the way, I took it from internet. I haven't created this. I took it from internet. So normally it will be there. Then you have level 2, you have level 3, and so on. Now, this is WBS. When you put the activities, it will become like this. You see, work package, its activities, where you'll have the duration, you'll have the relation, and so on. So what is shown in bold level or bold text are WBS levels. Normal text are activities, right? So this is how it will be. The activities will be under work package. Theoretically, we are discussing at 2 different steps. One is creating WBS, another one is defining activities. Practically, 1 step. We will do it in the same, but there will be a differentiation. These are WBS levels. These are, these are activity level. In Primavera, it will show us color bands. So this will be shown in one color, this will be another color. Activities will be without background color. I will show that in the schedule. Right. This is what we were discussing. Those who joined a little bit late, please have a look into the first 30-40 minutes video recording. So you will get the details. So you have project name, control account, as I told you, is a high level element, mainly for reporting purpose. Near future work, you will decompose into further levels until work packages. For future work, you will do the high level planning, which is called planning package, as we discussed. Later, when you have enough information, you will decompose into work packages, right? So, and there will be a code of accounts. Already we discussed about that code of account code of account, which is shown here 1.0, 1.1, 1.1.2, etc. So 100% rule, we already discussed about that. Highest level is project, next deliverable, lowest level is work package. So what is a WBS? A hierarchical decomposition of total scope of work to be carried out by the project team to accomplish the project objectives and create the required deliverables. So in the exam, if they are mentioning about total scope of work, you should know that is in your work breakdown structure, right? Already we discussed about these steps, okay, and how to create WBS, divide and subdivide the project scope and deliverables into smaller, more manageable components. That is about the work package, lower level. And number of levels depends on your project. Rolling wave planning and process elaboration, already we discussed about that, right? And the output from create WBS is scope baseline. Output from create WBS is scope baseline. Scope baseline includes 3 components: project scope statement, WBS, and WBS dictionary. WBS includes work packages and planning packages. So we know scope statement is the output from defined scope. Last class we discussed. WBS, work breakdown structure, we just discussed about that. What is WBS dictionary, right? First point to know, the key output from create WBS is scope baseline. Second point, it is a combination of 3 documents. Scope baseline is a combination of 3 documents. Approved version of scope statement, WBS, and WBS dictionary. What is WBS dictionary? Okay, now I had a look into my WBS. I understood my project. This is my WBS, right? Now I want to have more information. Okay, before the exam, what is the budget? What is the duration? What are the risks? Who is responsible to do it? The detailed information. Do I have that information in WBS? No, it's like a tree-like structure, a pictorial representation of my project scope. The details of WBS elements will be in WBS dictionary. So you should know WBS dictionary is a companion document for WBS. So what will be the components of WBS dictionary? Usually the WBS element and the dictionary will be linked through the code of account. Okay, 1.1.1, you'll have the details of 1.1.1 here. As I told you, description of work, responsible organization, any milestones, contractual constraints, acceptance criteria, resources, cost, duration, all the supporting information will be in WBS dictionary. So I repeat, WBS dictionary is a supporting document for the project WBS, and the detailed information of your WBS, you will have it in WBS dictionary. That's all. So you have the information here. Control account we already discussed. This is a management control point where the performance of the project is reported. Planning package we discussed. Code of accounts we discussed. So it will look like this. Project control accounts will be in the higher level. Then if you don't have enough information, go to planning package, or else it will further decompose, or you will be decomposing it under the work packages. Planning packages will be later decomposed into work packages. So that's the end of create WB. A client brings a project manager into a project during the project's execution stage. That means you are taking over from another project manager, assuming yourself as a project manager. There will be questions like this, if you are starting from the beginning, it's one way to manage. In case you are joining in the middle, then you have to know a few things. There will be questions like that. The project manager reviews the project scope for cost estimating purposes and notices that some deliverables were missed in the WBS. Which step should the project manager take next? Okay, some deliverables are missing. So it is the execution stage, and the scope is reviewed for estimating purposes. Verify with the stakeholders to see if these missed deliverables should be added. That is option A. Option B, ask that the project management office to approve additional funds for this work. Option C, include the work in WBS per the 100% rule and recalculate the total project cost. Determine whether these deliverables are necessary by verifying with experts in the field. Let's see your responses. 63% of you mentioned include the work in WBS as per 100% rule and recalculate the total project cost. Determine whether these deliverables are necessary by verifying with the experts. 12% of you mentioned that. Verify with the stakeholders to see if these missed deliverables should be added. This is 25%. So none of you selected option 2, right? So that means all of you are thinking in the right direction. So project manager is not immediately, as soon as they are knowing that the deliverable is missing, they will go and ask for additional funds. Not yet. You have to, but at a later stage. So determine whether these deliverables are necessary by verifying with experts and verify with stakeholders to see if these missed deliverables should be added are almost the same. Stakeholders also can be experts. When this can be an answer, you are not sure whether this deliverable has to be a part of the project or this is not a mandated deliverable, etc. But the question clearly says you have understood this deliverable is missing. So why you have to go and determine like whether you have to add it or not? So what you have to do is include the work in WBS per 100% rule. You are applying 100% rule and you are you are missing it, and recalculate the total project cost. What is the next step? Going for approvals, because you're already in execution, right? As a project manager, you know your deliverable is missing. Deliverable missing means deliverable will have its components, subcomponents, work package, everything is missing. So follow 100% rule, add it, calculate. Now you know adding this deliverable, how much this project is going to cost. Then because you are in execution, that means the current WBS is already approved. So you have to go and get approval. Even the question says get approval for new deliverable, that will be a wrong choice. Why? You don't have information. You cannot go and say, I have a new deliverable I want to add. You have to go with information. Here is a deliverable. These are the components and work package. This is a cost. This is a timeline. I need approval for this. Right. So 62% of you have answered option C, which is the right answer in this particular case. So with that, we are coming to an end of the planning processes in a scope management knowledge area, right? Before I go to the next concept, I will briefly talk about these two scope management processes as well. We have to know a little more information to understand these two processes more. So we will talk about that after discussing that additional information. But now briefly, I told you at the beginning of this class, after finishing with scope management planning, you will not go for validate or control scope. You will continue with planning processes. At the end of planning, you are finished with all the planning processes. You compile the key outputs into a project management plan, and that is the output which you will be executing in direct and manage project work. One of the outputs from direct and manage project work is deliverables. The deliverables, what you identified and defined scope, decomposed in WBS, you are bringing that as an output. We already discussed this in class 2. You are a project manager. Your team is reporting to you that we finished with a deliverable. What is the first thing to do? What is the first management activity to do? Because of time, we'll go with the answer. The first management activity is, as a project manager, you have to check the quality of those deliverables. Very good. Quality of the deliverables. So deliverables will go as the input for quality control. In PMP guide, we call it as control quality. It's for a very simple reason. They put a guideline when they were developing the PMP guide, saying all processes should start with a verb. Verb means an action. So you can see a develop, identify, plan, collect, define, create. So instead of control quality control, they put it as control quality. Otherwise, there is no change. It's quality control process. So what they will do in quality control process, they will test the deliverable and see, is it meeting the specifications? If it is meeting the specifications, the output will be verified deliverables. Output will be verified deliverables. So it's like, okay, test passed. What's the next step for a project manager? Okay, once your quality control team says your team have done the work as per the quality requirements, very good. The next step is you have to get acceptance from your customer. The process in which the customer is accepting the deliverables is actually validate scope. Validate scope is the process in which the customer accepts or rejects the deliverable. So customer will be checking the deliverable to know whether the deliverable is meeting their requirements. If yes, the output will be accepted deliverables. Once the deliverable is accepted, that means you are, at the end of the project or end of the phase. So it will go to close project or phase. If it is end of a phase, you will close that phase. If it is end of the project, you will have the final deliverable, and that will be handed over to the customer. So in deliverable, we are having 4 terminologies for the exam. Deliverables is the output from direct and managed project work. Verified deliverables is the output from quality control. Accepted deliverables is the output from validate scope. Final deliverables will be the output from close project process or phase process. Question. Validate scope will happen only at the end of the project. Type in the chat box. A, this is a true statement. B, this is a false statement. Validate scope will happen only at the end of the project is a false statement. It will happen whenever there is a deliverable or at the end of a phase. End of a phase, or whenever you have key deliverables, you will go for validate scope. So we know that validate scope is a process where customer accepts the deliverable. What is control scope? In the last class, we discussed about scope creep. What is scope creep? Uncontrolled scope changes. Uncontrolled scope changes. Now, we discussed one of the responsibilities of a project manager in a project is to ensure, or when it comes to scope management, their responsibility is to ensure they will do all the work and only the work required. Then only you can manage the scope creep. So control scope is the process of controlling the scope. What you are going to do there is, you're going to take the actuals, you're going to compare with the plan or the baseline, scope baseline, see, are we doing all the work and only the work? Are we doing anything more or anything less? If there is a deviation, you have to find the root cause of the problem and you have to solve that issue. That is control scope. Control scope happens throughout the project. Validate scope happens only when there is a deliverable, right? So scope creep in a project depends on how well you planned for the scope and how well you are controlling the scope. Planning for the scope includes collecting requirements, defining the scope, creating WBS, and control scope is where you are monitoring PDCA approach. Plan, do, check and act. So that's where you are checking and acting. Are we doing all the work and only the work? That's it for time being about validate scope and control scope. Now we discussed in a predictive project, how will you plan for the scope? You collect the requirements, you define the scope, you create a WBS, scope planning. This is the right time for us to discuss about Agile project management in detail. We discussed about Agile in class 2 as selecting a development method for the project. There we discussed Agile is a iterative way of doing the work and incremental way of delivering the output. There will be multiple deliveries in an Agile project, right? So that's the main discussion we had at that time. But how will you manage a project in Agile? Okay, we decided it is better we will do an iterative way and incremental delivery. How will you manage? How will you identify the scope? How will you manage the scope, schedule, budget, etc.? That's what we're going to discuss. You know, Agile project management was proposed as an alternate way of developing a software comparing to predictive projects. Okay. So to understand Agile very well, from the examination point of view, I will explain before the identification of Agile, how the software were developed or, developed in a predictive way. So in movies, to make someone as a hero, they will make someone as a villain. I'm going to do the same thing here. To understand the Agile methodology well, I'm going to explain to you about the disadvantages of traditional method. Even though there are many advantages of following traditional way of developing a software, I'm going to make traditional way as a villain to tell you about the hero, that is Agile project management. Let's start with that. You have to be attentive. I told you, theoretic or as per the document, 50% of the questions in the examination will be Agile or hybrid, but in reality, more than 60% of the questions are Agile. They made it official in the new exam content outline. According to July 2026 version, 60% Agile and 40% predictive. So this is one of the important discussions. Be attentive. If you want, you can make notes of key points, or you can make notes, while watching the recording. Okay, this is the traditional way or waterfall way of developing the software. Don't think even today all software development projects are following Agile. Many projects they do in predictive way as well. But as I told you, to understand Agile well, I will tell you the main drawbacks of traditional way of developing a software. How many of you are in software development industry? Type A in the chat box. If not, you don't want to type. Are you in a software development industry? Anyone? Right? None of you. Or anyone? Okay. Yeah, software development. Right. Anybody else? Great. Are you following Agile, Rachel? Yes. Karan, no. Okay. So, Rachel, are you following Agile also? Yes. Oh, okay. Great. Fine. So, during the discussion, you followed Agile in your software development?
Actually, sir, it's not Agile, but once develop the program, it comes like Agile only, because comments from the customer we can incorporate it again and we will change like that.
Okay. Okay. Kind of Agile. Okay. Great. Okay. Rachel, if you want to add any additional points, feel free to add it for the benefit of the class. Okay. Right. This is like a construction project, like developing a software in a predictive way is like a construction project. Terminology is a little bit different. Assume, like in my organization or for my department, I have to, or let's go for the organization level to get it more clear. We want to develop a software. We have 20 different departments, and all the departments are the stakeholders. So the organization awarded the contract to a consulting company, to a software development company. They appointed 3 or 4 or whatever number of resources to work with the organization, departmental team members to develop the software. That's a context to understand traditional way of developing the software. So when this consultant team got appointed to develop a software, first 3 months, they were gathering requirements. And during that 3 months, they met our department as well. Assume I was appointed as a nominee or representative of media, or 1 or 2 representatives from our department. We met the consultants and we provided our requirements. And they met other departments. End of 3 months, and they came with the document known as product requirements document. And they shared the draft with us for review and update. We reviewed, we gave our feedback. Other departments also gave the feedback. They incorporated the feedback as necessary. revised version they sent to us. Now this is okay. They said, get the sign off from your department manager saying these are the finalized requirements for your department. So all department managers, they signed off. So requirements are fixed at the beginning of the project, whether it's construction or IT or whatever it's saying. Then they spend around 6 months in developing the software architecture. Another 12 months in developing the software. So this 18 months, there is no much interaction with the beneficiary or customer team. We are the customer in this case. We don't know what's happening. That's all within the IT team. Yes, they contacted us for a couple of during that process couple of times, not to know, do we have any new requirements? They had some questions in the requirements we provided. They clarified it. That's usual. So only 1 or 2 times we met them or we got an email to clarify some of our requirements. 18 months later, they said, okay, here is the software. Please test it. This is verification. User acceptance testing. Maybe they gave us 15 days or 1 month. So first 3 months, they worked with us to capture requirements. Next 18 months, no contact, virtually no contact actually, once or twice for other purposes. Then telling us, here's the software, test it. At this stage, they're not asking us, have a look into the product and tell us, do you have any new requirements? What they're asking to us is, check the requirements, what you gave 18 months back. This product is meeting the requirements or not. During this stage, if there are any bugs, any issues, some of the requirements we gave at the beginning is not met, we can go back to them and tell them, these are our feedback, these are the bugs. We cannot go back and tell them, oh, after testing or while testing, we had a look into the product, we have some new requirements. Is it? No. Whatever your new requirements, put it separate. This will be additional requirements. We will take to the change control board. If they approve it, then we'll incorporate it. For that, we will need additional time, additional money, maybe another 3 months. Then they will publish it. So software is going like to production, live, and maintenance after how many months? 6 plus 3, 9, 9 plus 12, 21. Assume this is 1 month to equity. After 22 months of initiating the project, we are having the software to use. This is, I'm talking about a major product development. This is the predictive way of developing the software. Anyway, the point to note here is, if I am a consultant, I'm the one developing the software, this is the best approach for me because requirements are fixed. I can accordingly put the timeline, put the resources, etc. Easy to manage. But if I'm a customer, I'm going to use the software. While testing only, I will see the product. And if I'm having some new requirements, my organization may turn it down and say, we gave you time initially for 3 months. You haven't given the requirements at the time. Now, no, it's too late. Later we can see in the next version or whatever. No. Just see whether the product is meeting your requirements you give at the beginning. So customer side, it may not be that good. And the time it takes to develop a product is also a lot. So what happened back in 2001, January, 17 software developers, no doubt, software developers met at a resort known as Snowbird Ski Resort in a meeting room called the Lodge to discuss about this problem. They are in fact think tanks. Some of them were already coming up with alternate proposals. Oh, we have issues in this way of developing, and already you understood, as I told you, instead of focusing on the advantages, I mainly focused on disadvantages of developing a software in traditional methodology. The customers are not happy. They're not having an option to make a change. They have to wait for a long time to see their product in production or in use. We need to find a different way of developing software. These are the photos from the real meeting. So again, it's not like something new. Okay, only in that meeting they thought about it. No. Before that itself, who is that actually? Alistair was having his own methodology. Most of them are like proposing their own methodologies, but it was like scattered. Different people, different way of doing. So they all came together to discuss about an alternate way of developing software. So at the end of the meeting, 2 or 3 days meeting, I can't recall that, they came up with something called Agile Manifesto, which includes 4 Agile values and 12 Agile principles. You will find that in www.agilealliance.org. Like PMI, Project Management Institute, Agile Alliance was an independent, not-for-profit professional association promoting Agile practices globally. 2025 January 1, 13, 14 months back. Now we are in 2026 March. 2025 January 1, PMI Alliance was acquired by PMI. Sorry, Agile Alliance was acquired by PMI, and they have renamed. They haven't renamed, not renamed. It becomes PMI's Agile Alliance. If you are on LinkedIn, if you go and see the discussions that happened before 1st January 2025, it's always PMI versus Agile. I mean, the practice-ness. Oh, PMI is like outdated methodology, traditional way of doing, etc. Even though in PMPocket they're talking about Agile and all, and they worked with Agile Alliance to create the Agile practice guide, which you are now following for your PMP exam. It was always like PMI versus Agile or Agile Alliance, like that. And this information was kept confidential. Only on 1st January, PMI CEO announced it. The community couldn't take it. Next few months was like the community was exploding with various posts saying how it's acceptable, etc. Anyway, that all died. Now, that's not for examination, for your information. So what do you want to know? There's nothing about PMI acquired and so on, for your information. We have 4 Agile values and 12 Agile principles in, Agile Manifesto. So let's start with Agile values and Agile principles. These are very important because anything in the exam question choices given which is against the values and principles, they are wrong answer. Simple, very simply, you can say, okay, this is against the values and or principles, so it's a wrong choice. So let's start with the values. We are uncovering, who are those we? Those 17 software developers, those who joined together to come up with an alternate methodology. In fact, there are some videos, YouTube videos from one of those 17 participants saying how they came up with, this manifesto. And once they came up with the values, they want to put a name. So they discussed about multiple options, and somebody proposed Agile, and they decided we will go with Agile because that is more fit for what we are doing. That's how Agile came into practice. It's not that new, by the way. 2001, February. Now it is 2026, almost 25 years back. Even though in the initial stages, these values and principles were used by software developers because it was put together for that purpose. Later, the acceptance or many other industries started accepting Agile. They also started following values and principles, such as, product development, like marketing, research, etc. Even in construction, in some areas, not in all the areas, they are following Agile. So we are uncovering better ways of developing software. As I told you, it was developed for software, but in the last 2 decades or so, or last 10 years, last decade or so, many other industries started following. So for the PMP exam, anywhere they are saying like software, make it as a product. So we are uncovering better ways of developing products by doing it and helping others to do it. So we're going to follow this, and we'll help others also to follow these values. through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software or product over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. That means, while there is value in the items on the right, we value items on the left more. Anybody there saying we will not use processes and tools in Agile? There will be no documentation in Agile, no contract in Agile, no plan in Agile. They're wrong. There is. But the importance is more on the items in the left. So they are, it's not like individual interactions instead of processes and tools. Individual interactions over processes and tools. In a traditional way, there will be a systematic process for you to follow, right? And proper tools for you to use. If we ask, can we do this? Oh, we have a limitation in the tool. So the priority is for people and the interaction between them, teams, stakeholders, and so on. They are the one who is going to develop the product. Yes, there can be high-level processes, there can be tools, but that is not going to dictate the things what we are going to do. It's about the people, what the customer wants. So compared to the predictive, oh, I have a plan, I have a process, I have to follow this. If you want to make a change, follow the process. Here, no. Interactions. Everything will happen, or most of the things will happen through interactions. Individuals and interactions. People and the interaction between them is more important than just following a process or the processes and tools. There can be processes, but you're not just blindly going to say, oh, this is not aligned to the process, so we're not going to do it. Working product over comprehensive documentation. We discussed in the example, predictive project. After 3 months, what we got is a requirements document. 22 months later, after initiating the project, only we are starting to use the product. Whereas in an Agile project, within 2 weeks to 1 month, you will have a part of the product for the customer to use. The documentation is not that heavy, like you're not going to spend 3 months to prepare a document, probably 1 or 2 days to put high-level details, sign off, you directly start developing the product. That's why they say about the second value, working product over comprehensive documentation. Third, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. The traditional way is, if there is a client and there is a contractor or the consultant, traditional way, not always, but in many cases, they normally work against each other. Customer will have a bossy-like mindset. Okay, I am the one who is paying, right? And I have to command and control. On the other hand, the consultant, the mindset will be how we can make additional money from this. Okay, we have a scope. If there's a change, okay, then variation order. Whereas when it comes to an Agile project, they say this mindset will not work. If you're doing in this way, it's like working against each other. You have to work together as partners. That is what they're saying, customer collaboration. What is the difference between a contractor and a partner? If you're having a partner, your objective and your partner's objective will be the same. If you're a contractor, then it can be different. That is the main difference between, or one of the main differences between a partner and a contractor. So you have to consider the other party as a partner. The customer should understand that the contractor or consultant is my partner. The product, what they're going to develop in next 2 months, 2 years, whatever, I'm going to live with for next 5 to 10 years. So we have to work together. And the contractor should see the other party as a partner, that you are adding value to their business through which your company can get more contracts as well. So contract will be there, but anything we are asking, oh, it's not following contract clause ABC, or it's not as per the contract. No. Responding to change over following a plan. That also doesn't mean there will be no plan. There will be plan, but minimum plan. It doesn't say accepting the change, responding to change. In predictive, I told you, while we are testing the software or product, we are getting some new requirements. No, follow the change control board. But here, whether it is day 1 of the project or day 100 of the project, you will welcome the change. You will see this change. Is it going to add value to my customer? Is it going to create a competitive edge for my customer? Then yes, we will agree, we will do it. Whether it is day 1 or day 100, doesn't matter. Respond to change. So what is valuable in an agile project is individuals and interactions, working product, customer collaboration, and responding to change. This is a complete change from predictive way of doing. In predictive, so in fact, as I told you, these are all the major things you have to know, you have to follow in predictive. But they're saying, no, over that, we follow something else in Agile. So remember these 4, don't memorize. There will be no questions in the examination asking you which of the following is the first value or second value. No. When you are responding to a scenario, you should see, oh, is this as per the value or not? So you have to remember those 4 values. These 4 values are how long can you continue responding to change. If you remember, we discussed in Agile, there is an inverted triangle, right? What is fixed at the beginning of the project is, I think in class 2 or 3, we discussed about this, right? The time is fixed. The cost is fixed. Resources are fixed. And what is estimated is the features. How many features you can deliver. So we discussed about this prioritization briefly, right? High priority items will be in the top of the product backlog. Low priority items will be in the bottom of the product backlog. So you will continue doing until the time is elapsed, the money is spent, resources are utilized. So you are responding to change, and that is high priority. You are adding to the top, meaning immediately you will start doing it. You're responding to change, but you're seeing it's a low priority, you'll put it in the bottom. So you do the work as per the priority. Assume you fixed 6 months, and in 6 months' time, you can deliver only that much. Then there will be another discussion, right? Do you want to add 1 more month to do the remaining thing? So the constraints will be the time, cost, and resources. So you can add, remove, modify the features which fits to that time and cost. Great. Okay, that's about the values. Now we will talk about the 12 principles. This is in fact an extension. These principles are extensions to the values we discussed. Values are high level, but how to implement that, you will know from these 12 principles. So our highest priority is to satisfy that is principle number 1. Satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable product. Wherever they say software, let's take it as product. So what is the highest priority? Satisfy the customer. How? Through early and continuous delivery of valuable product. So our highest priority is not sticking to the plan and completing what we see in the plan. Our highest priority is to deliver something as early as possible to the customer and satisfy the requirements. So satisfy the customer, satisfying the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable product. I just now told you, but a valuable product. It's not like, oh, we have a scope, let's finish a part and give it to customer. High priority items in the top, which we are delivering and we are satisfying a customer, which are in fact valuable for the customer, right? Number 2, welcome changing requirements even late in development. This is an answer for your question, Ms. Nita, right? Again, it doesn't say implement changes, welcome changes. What do you mean by that? It's a mindset. I'm in a predictive project. If a customer or a team member or a stakeholder is telling me, you know what, changing this is good, back of my mind, my thinking will be, oh, I'm in trouble now. Already we are having a deadline and so on. This goes through an approval cycle, which will take longer. I have to wait, or that's the kind of mindset I will have. But in Agile, no, you welcome changes. When even late in development, this is what I was telling you, day 1 or day 100, change doesn't matter. You welcome the change, you will study the change, and you see, is it valuable? Is it a high priority or low priority? If it's high priority, you implement it. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. Already I explained that. If it is going to add value to the customer, day 1 or day 100 doesn't matter. We will respond to that change. Deliver working products frequently, from a couple of months to from couple of weeks to couple of months, with the preference to the shorter time scale. This is an extension of principle number 1. Here we discussed we have to deliver the software or product early and continuously. How early? From a couple of months to a couple of weeks to couple of months. So deliver working product frequently, from a couple of weeks to couple of months, preference to a shorter time scale. When they introduced Agile back in 2001, if they were delivering every 2-3 months, that was acceptable, because those days you have to wait for 22 months, 25 months to start using your product. And if you mention them, no, don't worry, we will give you something in 2 months, 3 months, you can start working on that, acceptable. But today, in today's environment, if you are saying, I'm working in Agile, I'm delivering every 12 months, every 2 months, they will laugh at you. They'll say, no, you are not Agile, you are predictive. Preference is for shorter time scale. Couple of weeks and 2 to 3 weeks, if you are able to deliver something, that is really valuable. That is better. So the first principle says deliver frequently. The third principle says how frequent? Couple of weeks to couple of months, couple of weeks is preferable, or shorter time scale is preferable. Fourth value, business people, that is stakeholders and developers. In software development, they are developers, whereas in normal project, they are team members, right? Developers are team members. So the stakeholders and team members must work together daily throughout the project. This is a complete contradiction to predictive project. You give the requirements, finalized, stay out of my process. I'm the project team, we will develop and get back to you with the product fulfilling your requirements. But here what we are saying, it's a change-based method. We are changing requirements, even little development. Welcomings are not changing requirements, welcoming changes. So the stakeholders and the project team should work together daily throughout the project. The stakeholders are not kept away from the project. They are kept informed. They are part of the process. Any changes, they see this is not according to their requirements, they can instruct immediately, oh, this is not according to my requirements. So stakeholders or business people and developers or project team must work together daily throughout the project. What we will do? So before the break, we discussed about the 4 values and 4 out of 12 principles, right? The 4th principle, what we discussed before the break, was about stakeholders and team members must work together daily throughout the project, right? And there is a connected principle there. We'll discuss a few more concepts. 5th one, build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. So in Agile project management, we have 2 important concepts. First one is about the team. The team is actually a self-organizing team. You will have a self-organizing team. And the project manager will be a servant leader. These are 2 important concepts you have to know. More on this we'll discuss later. We will discuss briefly about self-organizing team today. So what is the responsibility of a project manager is to ensure you have a self-organizing team. The team is motivated to self-organize and do the work by themselves. What is the difference between a normal team and a self-organized team? Normal team means there will be all the instructions will be coming from a leader. They'll follow the instructions of the leader. A self-organizing team, the team will collaborate and they make decisions what to do, how to do, when to do, and they do accordingly. The leader will not make the decisions for them. So what is the responsibility of the project manager is to build projects around motivated individuals, those who can self-organize. And there is a problem. You have a self-organizing team, but if you give instructions, again, there is no benefit. So give them the environment and support they need. Trust them to get the job done. Don't involve and you make decisions for them. Let them collaborate, do the work, and provide that environment and support and trust them. They will be able to do the work. So this is software development is a knowledge-based work, right? A knowledge-based work can be done well if you have a self-organizing team and they are interacting between them and deciding how to do the work. Servant leader, we'll talk about that later. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team or project team is face-to-face conversation. When we discussed about communications, I told you in the PMP exam question, if there is a choice, if there's about the answer is communication and there's a choice about face-to-face communication, usually that will be the right answer. That is based on the sixth principle. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a project team. We discussed a face-to-face communication is a combination of verbal, vocal, and visual communication. Visual communication plays or adds 55% or is 50% important in face-to-face communication. So that tells you like why, again, they're all related. For example, they have to daily work together. If they are working together only, they can have a face-to-face communication, right? It's not like people are in different locations, etc. Again, today's business environment, you can have virtual team. There are other options, video conferencing, and then they interact between them. Right, let's focus on the, principles for time being. Working software is the primary measure of progress, or working product is the primary measure of progress. In Agile, when you're managing a project in Agile, how are you going to track the progress? It's either 0% or 100%. In a predictive project, I can report in this particular area, I am 30% complete in this month. Next month, I'll report 40% complete. And it will go on, then 80, then 90, then 100. That is how we report actually. So first we say, okay, this activity A, for example, 10% complete, month 1, month 2, 20% complete, month 3, 30, month 4, 50, then 80, then 100. This is how we report the progress. But if you're doing it in Agile, all these months, the progress of activity A will be 0%. Only when it is done, it will go to 100%. Why? Based on this principle. Working product is the primary measure of progress. Working, not completing the product. Working product. Working product is available when it is complete. So it's either 0 or 100%. Hope it's clear, right? So in Agile, I'm preparing a report and give 10% progress for that report. In predictive, you may do that, but in Agile, no. There is no working product from that particular report. That's just documentation. Great. 8, Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, or team members and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. I'm going to skip this a little bit, the concept, but I'll give you a brief explanation. This is called velocity. This is to maintain the pace. In week 1, assume It's too much of requirement. So we'll ask the team to do the work overtime and they finish 20 features in week 1. Week 2, they are not that busy, etc. We'll finish only 10. Not acceptable. There should be a sustainable way of maintaining a constant pace. Too many requirements, so I'll done less. Too many changes, so I finished less this week, but next week not that many changes, we'll finish more, or we're expecting team to do more. No, we'll say if my team can complete 10 features in a week, assume it's a major project, we have enough required team members, then every week the team is expected to complete 10 features. This is the meaning of constant pace. What is this velocity and all? We'll talk about that a little bit later. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. That is principle number 9. Agile is not doing something in a hurry and bringing something in front of the customer. This is another way of doing the work and completing the deliverables. But the focus is on quality. Even you are doing in a hurry, in 2 weeks' time you're delivering something. If it is of poor quality, what is the benefit of that? So, technical excellence, continuous attention to technical excellence and good design. The project will be complete in 1 year, but they are going to use that product for next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So, good design and technical excellence will only provide quality product. That is the cornerstone of Agile, right? So, it's not just doing in a hurry and delivering something, but doing in quality as well. Simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. This is another principle. Again, okay, well, let me finish it and give you the overall points. Option A, I take 100% of the work and I'm completing 70% of it in the given time frame. Or option B, I'm taking 70% of the work and completing it 100% in the given time frame. Which one is better? Type A, if you think you take 100% and finish 70% of it. Type B, take 70% and finish 100% of it. The answer is, so far all of you are mentioning B, and the right answer is also B. If you are tracking the performance or progress in Agile, at the end of that period, this is 0% complete because you took everything and you finished only 70% of it. You finished only 70% of it. So it's either 0% or 100%. But if you are doing in B, you are 70% done. So take what you can complete and only do that. No multitasking in Agile. I'll do 5% here, 10% here, 20% here. No, take something, complete it, then move on to the next product. Right? Let's take a simple example to understand this principle in detail. This is a part of that actually. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. Take what you can do and complete it. Microsoft Word. I'm sure all of us, we are using this product. Are you using 100% of Microsoft Word? Maybe what we are using is 20%, 30%, right? That's enough for us to do our work. Correct. That's enough for us to do that. But we have many more options, which may be required for some uses, not for everyone. Now, assume you are developing a product similar to Microsoft Word for an organization. The idea or the principle says, don't go and put as many as features as possible. When reality, team is going to only use 10 features, deliver that. Others put it as low priority and see according to the uses. If like maybe, see, when we are purchasing a software, we are paying for the whole or every single feature in that product. But we are using only 20%, 30% of it. It's waste of time and money, right? That is an off-the-shelf product. But when we are developing, simplicity, focus on what customer want and deliver only that. Not like, let me bring a product with as many as features possible, even it is not helpful or useful for the customer. So we know, right, the importance here is providing value. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams, right? That's a connected principle actually. Ensure you have a self-organizing team and provide them the environment and support and trust them to get the job done. Then it says the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing team. Assume I'm a team member. I have years of experience in that particular work. My manager is assigning me a task and telling me, do in this way and show me the result or complete the work. Now, because I have the experience, I am thinking and doing in a better way, which I believe in a better way, and I'm showing the results to my manager. If the manager is saying, this is not the way how I asked you to do it exactly what I told you, then only he will approve it. I will try my best a couple of times, but obviously there will be no approval. Then automatically I will change. I won't think. Whatever that person is saying, I'll just complete it. So there is no improvement. There is no thinking here, just completing the work. One person is thinking. But if you have a self-organizing team, they are discussing, debating. All of them are having experience like me. We are coming up with options, discussing the advantage, disadvantage, better option. And now we are deciding, all of us together in a consensus, like, okay, majority of them, they're agreeing to go with this. Assume how the quality of that result will be, product will be. That's what they're saying. When the team is debating, discussing, disagreeing, and finally agreeing to do the work together in a coordinated way, they will bring the best products, designs. So the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams because of the discussion, debate they will have between them. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective and then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. We are so busy in our work, right? Every day, every week, we are doing the work. Many at times we repeat our mistakes. And we'll realize, oh, the same thing happened last week or the month before. Why? Because we are not doing the 12th principle here. If you block 1 hour on the last day of the week, Qatar Thursday, no meetings, no reports, no project work, just to think and evaluate what I did in the last week. Sunday to Thursday, I did these things. What went right? What went wrong? Then what I'm learning from that, how I can do it better in the future. Make a note of it. Simply put, lessons learned. This will make you more effective. So next time, you will not repeat the same mistake. That's what Principle 12 says. You have to evaluate how you are doing. Is there any way to make improvements in the work we are doing and do it in a better way? At regular intervals, this interval normally links to the delivery interval. If you are delivering working software every couple of weeks, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. This is called retrospective in, Agile. What is this? We'll talk in detail later, but that's a concept. So these are the 12 principles of Agile project management. So what we discussed so far is, 4 values and 12 principles. This is one of the important aspects you have to know for the PMP exam. Again, don't memorize those values and principles. You need to understand. Watch this part one more time. Or, there are a lot of YouTube videos available. Just search for Agile values and principles. Simple, detailed videos available. You can have a look into that as well. So, understanding these 4 values and 12 principles will help you to think in the right direction to answer questions in the examination. So any questions on the values and principles? Or Ms. Rachel, you want to add anything to the values and principles from your practical experience? Right. So this is like good to have, do in that way, do in this way. But I have to implement it. To implement this, we are following various methodologies, agile methodologies, such as Scrum, Crystal, Kanban, Scrumban, extreme programming, FDD, feature-driven development, agile unified process, dynamic system development method, etc. The overall concept is about lean. Lean came from manufacturing industry. The objective of lean is to reduce wastages. And agile is a subset of lean. The objective of agile is deliver value by many ways, including reducing wastages. Be lean and deliver value. The Kanban methodology is actually from lean community. So it's more of lean, is a combination of lean and agile. Kanban is a combination of lean and agile. So for the PMP examination, is it required for us to learn all these agile methodologies? No. Most of the exam questions will be from Scrum methodology. Maybe more than 70-80% of agile questions in the examination you can answer if you know if you know Scrum methodology clearly. Why Scrum? More than 50% of agile projects, they follow Scrum methodology. More than 50% of agile projects, they follow Scrum methodology. That's why most of the questions in the examination will be about agile. Others, they are using different other methods. There may be a question or two about Kanban methodology. So these two are commonly used agile methodologies. So in our class, we are going to learn about Scrum in detail. And in general, also we talk about Scrum, a little bit about Kanban, a little bit about extreme programming, but maybe 15 minutes we'll talk about extreme programming, 1 hour we'll talk about Kanban, but all other concepts will be about Scrum methodology. So let's start discussing about Scrum methodology. So far what we discussed is agile values and agile principles that came from, those 17 software developers. So before we go to Scrum methodology in detail, we'll learn something about agile release planning, and similar concepts we are going to discuss in Scrum methodology as well. One of the main differences between a predictive project and an agile project is, in predictive project, the focus is on project, like project requirements, project scope statement, work breakdown structure. Project is about the work. So it's about the project. But in agile, the main focus is on the product. The main focus is on the product. So what is step 1 in agile planning, on agile way of managing the project? Step 1 is you define a product vision at the beginning of the project. The goal. Today, we are doing the work manually. We are going to implement a software. What's the vision? How that scenario will look like? The faster, error-free, or errorless, not error-free, minimum error or etc. environment where we are going to have the software, for the project. So you put the vision, goal. So everybody, they know when this product is implemented, this is what we are going to achieve. Once This is similar to organization vision, that strategy step and so on. So to achieve this vision, you will develop a product roadmap. Roadmap is a high-level plan. It's like a strategic plan. What we're going to do to achieve that vision. I'll take a simple example. Someone is planning to retire at 60. Okay, after 60, I have to enjoy my retirement life. But you can't simply retire. You need to have some, savings objectives you have to achieve. Then you can, retire at 60. So normally, assume the person is now 40 plus. They put a roadmap. At 45, I have to achieve this. 50, I have to achieve this. It's a roadmap, right? 55 this, 60 this. Let's say in terms of financial, or savings. X amount of savings at 45, Y at 50, etc. At 60, if I'm achieving this, then I can retire. That is about the high level. What we will do, how we will do, or what we have to achieve on those milestones. That's a roadmap. Similarly here, we are going to deliver this final product in 1 year, but we are going to deliver in pieces. So high level roadmap, what we are going to deliver. Based on the roadmap or based on the product vision and roadmap, you will create something called product backlog. Backlog is where your product backlog is where you are going to capture the requirements. Product backlog is where you are going to capture the requirements. As we discussed, once you capture the requirements, then you will prioritize it. So this is actually known as prioritized product backlog. It's actually known as prioritized. So high priority items will be in the top of the product backlog and low priority items will be in the bottom according to the priority. This is high, this is low. Based on the product or prioritized product backlog, step 4, you will develop a release plan. Based on the vision, roadmap, and product backlog, you will develop a release plan. Releases are major outputs. Releases are major outputs. Let's say these top priority items we will deliver in release 1. This is also high priority, release 2. Medium priority, release 3. Low priority, release 4. So based on the, let's say you are having 100 features in the product backlog. As we know, Agile is a change-based methodology. This 100 can go to 150 or reduce to 70 or 80, depends on the changes. But we will have a release plan to say, okay, at the end of release or in this release, release 1, we will have all these high priority features and so on. So once you have a release plan, each release will be further subdivided into something called iteration. Something called iteration. So you'll have a iteration plan. Okay. Let's go to release 1. And in the items, assume we are planning to deliver, let's say, 30 features in release 1. We will divide that into, for example, 3 iterations. I'll put iteration 1, iteration 2, and iteration 3. In iteration 1, let's say we'll deliver 10 features. Iteration 2, another 10 features. Iteration 3, another 10 features. That 3 iterations together will be release 1. So release plan will be further decomposed or divided into iteration plan. Iteration is where the detailed planning is happening. So as you can see here, I have a release or 3 releases we planned in this particular project. Release 1 is further divided into number of iterations. So the iteration is where, iteration or iteration, however you pronounce it, is where you will do a detailed planning. In my example, I told we will deliver 10 features in iteration 1. In this example, we are delivering 4 features in iteration 1. Feature is like a scope. These features are based on requirement. In Agile, requirements are documented as user stories. Requirements are documented as user stories. You know, Agile is a lightweight methodology. It's a change-based methodology, so they don't go for a detailed planning like predictive project. It's all like lightweight method. So one feature here, like feature A, is fulfilling 2 different requirements, user stories. Another features are fulfilling one particular requirement. Like feature B is fulfilling requirement 3, user story 3, feature C, requirement 4, and so on. So in iteration 1, we will be delivering 4 features which will fulfill 5 requirements of the customer. Requirements are kept as user stories. Then for each feature, we will do the planning. Task A is, for example, design. Task B is program. Task C is test. Task 4 is document, etc. And then we will look at, for designing, it will take 5 hours, programming 8 hours, testing 4 hours, documenting 12 hours, etc. That is a detailed plan. We are going to follow this plan, do the work, and complete the feature. So I quickly repeat, this is important. We will learn more about that in Scrum methodology. This is generic concept, Agile release planning. You start with a product vision. To achieve that product vision, you will develop a product roadmap. And now you go for detailed planning. You will capture the features, the requirements in prioritized product backlog. Top priority will be in the high priority will be in the top of the product backlog. Low priority will be in the bottom. Then you will divide those features into releases. In how many releases we're going to deliver all those features. Then that is called release planning. Each release, there will be iterations. Okay, you will be dividing that releases into iterations. In my example, release 1 is split into 3 iterations. Then we are going to see in each iteration what features we are going to deliver, and these features, how many requirements it is going to meet. Requirements are kept as user stories, and the detailed planning is done at the feature level. Feature A, what activities we have to do. Now we're going to do that, complete this feature. Then we'll do the planning for feature B, planning for feature C, feature D. We'll complete 4 features in iteration. So usually the duration for a release is 6 months. The duration for a release is 6 months. We'll come back to this. What is product roadmap, etc. We'll do it, for example. Then each iteration you may have 2 weeks. Then so 1 month is, you have 2 iterations in a month. So 6 months means there will be 12 iterations. And each iteration you are doing in detailed planning. That's about Agile release planning. Product sprint backlog, I'll talk about that later. So we discussed about product backlog from high priority to low priority. Okay. Let's briefly talk about the user stories. You have to know about user stories for the examination. Then we'll come back to discuss about the other concepts, right? There is a format for the user story. The requirements are documented as user stories. This is the format of the user story in an Agile project. As a dash, I want to dash so that dash. So who are you in that particular project? As a customer, I want to, what is the action and what is the benefit? Let's say as a trainer, that is my role. I want to write digitally on screen. Same example we discussed in the last class, so that I can explain the concepts clearly. for example. The team member who is reading it will have a look at that. Who is writing this requirement? The trainer. What is the action the trainer is looking for? To write digitally on screen. Why? Because he wants to explain. It depends. The benefit can differ. Now they will think about that. Okay, the objective here is to explain the concepts clearly. They may say, oh, by the way, to do this, we have another option. We have a different methodology. I'm not going to tell them as a trainer, I'm looking for a digital board. No, that is the scope they have to come up with. So scope will be defined by the project team and agreed by the customer, but the requirements will go from the customer. So who will write the user story? Anybody can write the user story, but on behalf of stakeholders. Team members can write the user story, but on behalf of the customer, on behalf of the user. They cannot say, as a team member, I want to finish the work easily so I can go home early. That's not a user story. Team members don't write a user story from their own point of view, right? So, question. All of you are going to assume the same role as a PMP training participant. That's your role here, right? I want to A and type your action so that B and type the benefit you are looking for, right? So as a PMP training participant, A, what action you are looking? I want to dash so that I can get this benefit. So I want to pass the PMP exam. So another answer is attend the class so that I can pass the examination. Okay. Let's see whether it is all same or different requirements. What about this? What is B? A is pass. So already we have A and B from Jigat. Attend the class so I can pass the examination. So, okay, right, yours. Now, what I'm telling you is, user story is not that difficult. It's easy to understand. There are some, okay, B, career benefits. Pass the exam and get career benefits. Okay, depends on, your goal, objective. A and B can change. Yeah, benefits. So I'm going to play a video. That will help you to understand user story, a little bit better. What you want to know for the examination about the user story. Watch that and come back. Then we'll discuss other concepts.
User stories are tools used in Agile to capture a description of a feature from the end user's perspective. They help to achieve cross-team clarity on what to build, for whom, why, and when. User stories are customer-centric. They start with the customer in mind. And they're phrased from the user standpoint instead of from the system's. User stories are lightweight. They are easy to write and change, and they easily break into smaller pieces. User stories are collaborations. Anyone can write a user story, but the team can't work on it until they understand it. User stories help build quality into the solution. They use acceptance criteria and a definition of done to ensure quality. And each story is reviewed at the end of the iteration and accepted or rejected, so we don't have to go rethink it over and over. So, what's the criteria for a good user story? This mnemonic offers some solid guidance. Good user stories are independent of other stories. This makes it easier to plan and deliver the work. Good user stories are negotiable. This makes collaboration easier, and it makes it easier to include feedback and input from the delivery team and others. Good user stories are valuable. They have value for the end user. Good user stories are estimable. That is, we can estimate its size to determine whether it's small, medium, or large. This makes planning and delivering easier. Good user stories are small. This makes it easier to estimate, plan, and delivery. As a rule, a good user story is anywhere from half a day to 2 days' work. And finally, good user stories are testable. They can be tested to demonstrate that we did what we said we would.
Okay, so you understood the guidelines for developing good user stories. As you can see, they are independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable, right? That's about the user stories. So that's about the requirement. Here are some examples. You can have a look into that later. You already understood the concept. As a customer, I want shopping cart feature so that I can easily purchase items online. As a manager, I want to generate report from this tool so that I can understand which department need more resources and so on. So this is a format as we discussed. As a role, I want to have this action so I can get that particular benefit. Okay, that's a high level overview about, agile release planning. So product vision, we'll talk about the product owner in a few minutes. It includes a clear vision of the desired objectives and alignment with the organization's strategic goals. It will be referred throughout the project to maintain alignment. So, how an agile project is linked to the organization's strategy, you will know that through the product vision. Question: which document in a predictive project will tell you how a predictive project is aligned to the organization's strategy? Type in the chat box or unmute and tell me. Name of the document in a predictive project that tells you how that project is aligned to the organization's strategy. Okay. In Agile, it will be product vision statement that will tell you how this project is aligned to the organization's strategy, not OPA. OPA is like historical information and so on. The right answer is project charter. Correct. So Bilan mentioned about that. Project charter, I told you in the last class or the one before when we discussed about project charter is where the goals, alignment to the strategy or the vision is mentioned, organizational vision. So understand that. And I mentioned vision is for agile project charter is for a predictive project. Great. So you have product vision, product roadmap, prioritized product backlog, release plan, iteration plan, user stories, tasks, execution and delivery. Already we discussed about this, right? That's what you are seeing here in this. So product vision, product roadmap, etc. So that order is given here. What is a product roadmap? As I told you, a high-level visual summary of the product or products of the project that includes goals, milestones, and potential deliverables, right? It envisions and plans the big picture. Already I explained about that. So you can go through that. User story, already we discussed about that, right? This is how, your product backlog will look like. From high priority to low priority, already I told you, we are planning to deliver it in various releases. Within a release, you will have various iterations. Iteration 1, iteration 2. What is sprint? I'll talk about that next. Velocity, I'll skip it for time being. I briefly mentioned this during the discussion of agile principles, but I will explain this later. Working with features. I told you, you develop a detailed plan based on the features. Why? As you can see here in the agile release planning, I know when I'm finishing these tasks, my feature A is ready. Programming, testing, documenting, approval, etc. I know feature A is complete now. So that is a benefit in doing a detailed planning as per the feature, according to the feature. That's what they are mentioning in this particular slide. Working with features. Scheduled aligned to features ensures associated work is completed. Associating features with the product roadmap offers visibility of when blocks of functionality can be released to the business and end users, when it can be done and can be released. With that generic overview of agile release planning, we are going to discuss about Scrum methodology in detail. As I told you, Many questions you will be able to answer in the examination based on the Scrum discussion we are going to have now. So, till the release planning, there is no difference between the generic concept and the concept what we are going or what we want to know for the exam regarding Scrum. There will be a business case and all before starting the project. Only thing it says project. Again, this image is coming from internet. You will have a product vision. There will be a roadmap. There will be a prioritized product backlog. There will be a release planning, and you will have 3 releases: release 1, release 2, release 3. A particular release is split into number of iterations. Instead of iteration, in Scrum, we call it as sprint. So another name for iteration is sprint. This is important. Sometimes in the exam, they will mention iteration. Some other times they will mention sprint. There is no difference. It's the same. Sprint is equal to iteration. Sprint is the heart of Scrum. In fact, most of the questions in the exam will be related to the things happening in a sprint. One of the important points you have to know for the examination is everything is time boxed in sprint. Time boxed means time limit, time set. If you say a meeting is time boxed, it's 9 to 10, then sharp 9 you will start the meeting and sharp 10 you will finish the meeting. That is the power of, that is the importance of time box. You won't start at 9:1, you won't finish at 10:1. 9 to 10 is 9 to 10. Sprint is time boxed. The usual duration of the sprint is 1 to 6 weeks. The standard duration of a sprint is 2 weeks. Let's say you are in a 2-week sprint. Assume you are working for 5 days a week. So 2-week sprint means for you it will be 10 working days. It will be 10 working days from day 1 to day 10. Sunday to Thursday this week, Sunday to Thursday next week. So 2-week sprint. So everything is time boxed. You have to also know something about time cadence. Cadence means rhythm or frequency. You are going to conduct or do the first sprint in 2 weeks, means every sprint will be 2 weeks. You are not going to change the duration. In this sprint, we will do 10 items, so we will do it in 2 weeks. Next sprint, we will do 5 items, so we'll do it in 1 week. Next week, 15 items, so 3. No. If you are fixing the duration of a sprint is 2 weeks, every sprint will be 2 weeks. That is about time cadence, that rhythm, that frequency will continue. Right? So that's a basic point you know for the exam regarding sprint. First point, it's time boxed. Usual duration of a sprint is 2 weeks. It can be, even though it can be 1 to 6 weeks, usually it will be 2 weeks. So 10 working days. And it will be there will be a time cadence for the sprint and other things we're going to discuss. Meaning same frequency will be there for every sprint. So day 1 of the sprint morning, there will be a sprint planning meeting. We're going to talk about 4 meetings: daily stand-up meeting, sprint review meeting, sprint retrospect meeting. First, we will talk about sprint planning meeting. Day 1, you will conduct a sprint planning meeting. Usually, the duration of sprint planning meeting for 1 week sprint, the duration will be 1 hour. So 2 weeks, it will be 2 hours max, which is also time boxed. 8 to 10 minutes, 8 to 10. You can finish early, but it won't be later than 10. So what will be the input for sprint planning meeting? Your prioritized product backlog. Who will be, or what are the roles we are having in a Scrum project? Let's talk about that. Then we will come back and discuss who will participate in sprint planning meeting, what is the responsibility of various people in a Scrum project. So now we are discussing about the meetings, also known as ceremonies, rituals in a Scrum project. We are discussing about sprint planning meeting. What is artifact? We'll talk about that later. We discussed about product backlog. Today we'll talk about sprint backlog. Burn down chart, we'll keep it for the next class. We'll talk about important, but we'll talk about that later. What is the normal? So normally there will be only 3 roles in a Scrum project: product owner, Scrum master, and project team. The number of team members usually will be 3 to 9 in a Scrum project. So it's usually a small team. You know, Agile team is a self-organizing team. If you're having 20 members, self-organization will be difficult. Even a person is taking 1 minute to explain his or her point of view, you will need 20 minutes to go for 1 round. So it is difficult. So usually Agile team will be a small team. So the size of the team will be 3 to 9 plus 1 plus 1. One is Scrum Master, another one is product owner. So maximum 11 people will be there in a Scrum team. Product owner. Anything that starts with the product is a responsibility of product owner. Okay. For example, we discussed about product vision. Okay. Let me see whether I can. I will have taken the whiteboard. Okay. Product vision. Who will set the product vision? Product owner. So, product roadmap. Who is responsible to set the product roadmap? Product owner. In fact, we discussed about changes, managing changes in an Agile project. In a Scrum project, who is responsible to make those changes is your product owner. For example, in the product backlog, we have 100 items. Yeah. And it has been increased to 120 or reduced to 80. Who will be actually responsible to approve those changes is your product owner. The recommendations may come from the project team, Scrum Master. They may provide the recommendation, but the person responsible to make that decision, yes, this will be added, this will be removed, is your product owner. So in fact, product owner is kind of a customer representative. Customer stakeholders, they want to make a change, they will contact the product owner. Product owner will discuss with the Scrum Master, project team, but final decision is made by the product owner. What goes into the product backlog, you know, what is removed from product backlog, etc. So anything that starts with the product, responsibility is with product owner. Now you want a team or you want someone to do the work and develop the deliverables. Who is that? That's your team. Your team is responsible to do the work and bring the deliverables. Scrum Master is more of a facilitator. In some organizations, Scrum Master is also known as Agile Coach. Scrum Master is also known as Agile Coach. He is responsible to ensure everyone follows the Agile values and principles. Not only the team, even the stakeholders, organization, they all follow the Agile values and principles. So that is a responsibility. Team members, they are following Agile values and principles, product owners, stakeholders, everyone. That is Scrum Master. Question: which role is equivalent to a project manager's role in a Scrum project? Type A, if you think product owner, B, Scrum Master, C, team. Which role is equivalent to the project manager's role in a Scrum project? The right answer is, most of you are right, Scrum Master, B. Scrum Master is equivalent to a project manager. So, in the PMP exam, if it is a predictive project, you have to think as a project manager to answer those questions. If it is an Agile project or Scrum project, then you have to think as a Scrum Master to answer the questions. So usually, the team setup is something like this. Customer will be providing their requirements to the product owner, who is also known as the voice of customer. Product owner communicates the prioritized business requirements to the Scrum team, creates the prioritized product backlog, and defines the acceptance criteria for those features. The Scrum team creates the deliverables of the project. They demonstrate product increment to the product owner during the sprint review meeting, which we'll discuss now. Scrum Master ensures a proper work environment for the Scrum team. One of the principles we discussed is bring a motivated team and give them the environment to work together and trust them to get the work done. Who is responsible to do that is Scrum Master, who is considered as a project manager in a Scrum project. Right? That's about the team. Now let's go back to talk about the sprint. We discussed 1 to 6 weeks, usually 2 weeks, that is time boxed. Today is day 1 of the sprint. It will be 5 days a week. So 2 weeks is 10 working days. Day 1, what time you conduct a sprint planning meeting is up to the team, product owner, Scrum Master. So this is also time boxed. This is sprint planning meeting. So let's say it will be happening from 8 to 10, 2 hours max. So what they will do in the sprint planning meeting is they will look into the prioritized product backlog, right? What is this project is all about? We have high priority to the low priority. At the beginning of the discussion, they will discuss and they will agree on a sprint goal. In that sprint, what we are going to achieve. Sprint goal. What's the goal? The goal of the sprint is to complete in 2 weeks' time, to complete the shopping cart related items or features in the project, for example. Then they will go and see from the top. Okay. So once they fix the sprint goal, they'll discuss product owner, team, Scrum Master, and say, okay, let's take the 10 items. Okay, 2 weeks' time, we can do these 10 items in this sprint, which to fulfill that sprint goal, and that will be put in, this is actually prioritized product backlog, and those 10 features which you decided to do will be put under sprint backlog. So the input to the sprint planning meeting is prioritized product backlog, and output from a sprint planning meeting is sprint backlog. Output from a sprint planning meeting is sprint backlog. Sprint backlog will have the product backlog, will have the features, what you will complete in that project, whereas sprint backlog will have features that you will complete in that particular sprint. So let's say we plan to complete 10 features in that sprint. Now, that is part 1 of the sprint planning meeting. Say first 30 minutes or 40 minutes, they will decide what's the sprint goal and what we are going to do in that sprint. Second part of the sprint planning meeting, the team will discuss and prepare a detailed plan to complete those 10 features. Who will do what, when, how, in what order in that project. That will be in the sprint backlog. So this is one of the concepts I skipped earlier. So if you go back to this concept where we discussed from the product backlog, you are choosing the items and you're putting in a sprint backlog. In the product backlog, you're having only the features. In the sprint backlog, in addition to the features, you're having a plan what task you will do, in what order you will do. In fact, this is what we call as iteration plan or sprint plan. That will be also in the sprint backlog. Another name for iteration is sprint. In Scrum methodology, we don't call it as iteration, we call it as sprint. So that is the output. Sprint backlog is the output from sprint planning meeting. That's it. After 2 hours, as I told you, it's a 10-day sprint. Sprint planning meeting is done in 2 hours. Then team will start doing the work according to the plan what they prepared and documented in the sprint backlog. Every day, there will be a meeting between the team members to discuss about the progress and support required. That meeting is called daily stand-up meeting. That meeting is daily stand-up meeting. The duration of daily stand-up meeting is 15 minutes. And it is also time boxed. They will discuss about 3 agenda items in the daily stand-up meeting. 1, what you did yesterday, from last meeting to this meeting, what you have completed. 2, what's your plan for today? What you will do from this meeting to next meeting. And 3, are you facing any issues or impediments? In Agile, we call it as impediments. So what you completed from the last meeting to this meeting, what's your plan to do from this meeting to next meeting, and what are the impediments? So assume you are having 9 members. Each one, they are taking 1 minute to discuss about this. It will be already 9 minutes. Remaining time, you will discuss about if they're talking about the impediments, how to, like, one of the team member is saying, I'm supposed to have another member to work with me. That person is in a casual leave today, so I need support to complete it. Then accordingly, they will discuss in the remaining time, okay, what support we can provide. Maybe another team member is not that busy, part-time, they can support, whatever it is. Or we will ask to the Scrum Master to give us the required support, etc. So that's about the stand-up meeting. And also, the time cadence is followed here. If you are deciding, okay, what time to conduct a stand-up meeting, it's up to your project. If all of you are in the same location, working in the same shift, maybe you'll do it at first thing in the morning. Or you have people working from different locations, different time zones. 2 p.m. is the common time available between all the members. You will conduct a meeting at 2 p.m. But if you decide, we're going to do this meeting at 8 or 2, every day you will do it at the same time. It's not like today it will be 8 o'clock, tomorrow 9 o'clock, after tomorrow it will be 2 p.m. No. 8 o'clock if you're planning to do, every day you will do it at 8 a.m. Right? That is a time cadence. This work will continue for a sprint. So day 1, you will conduct a sprint planning meeting. Day 10, you will conduct a sprint review meeting. What you completed in that particular sprint.
There, I have one question.
For the exam. Yes, Mr. Jigad.
During stand-up meeting, there is impediments or a problem, conflict between teams, okay? So the solution at the daily stand-up meetings or later?
Conflict between the team members, is it discussed at the daily stand-up meeting or later? That's the question, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
See, if it is a minor discussion, right? One of you are raising a point, another one is coming up with a point and discuss. It will be part of, see, whenever there is a meeting, there will be some kind of conflicts. Any kind of meeting. I'm coming up with a point, another one will say a different opinion. Self-organized team is encouraged. But however, there is a work-related conflict which need to be evaluated. You need to go and identify the root cause, involve various stakeholders, and we discussed, you have to understand the context first. We'll discuss in detail about that later as well. That's not part of this meeting. That will be separate. 15 minutes, you cannot resolve a conflict. That may take days, weeks, multiple meetings. They're not part of this meeting. Got it? So,
okay, thank you.
A team conflict management is different. Here, it's only about the work progress. Someone is saying there's an impediment and you have a minor point to address. there is a minor conflict, they're all like, okay, not work-related conflict, something you need to address to identify the root cause, planning, meetings have to be done, they are separate. Okay, right. Now we will talk about the, does that answer your question, Jigar?
No, thank you. It's clear.
Okay, okay. So we'll talk about the sprint review meeting. Assume, I mean, as we know, we decided to complete 10 features in this sprint, right? We have, let's say, 100 features in the product backlog. And we, at the beginning of the sprint, in the sprint planning meeting, we decided that we'll do 10 features in this sprint. Assume on day 10, you finished only 8 features. What will happen? What you will do? Keep the points what we discussed in mind. I haven't explained yet, but think and answer what will happen on day 10 if you finished only 80% of the planned work or whatever percentage. In my example, 80%. I know according to my plan, it will take 2 more days to finish the remaining features. So what we will do, we will extend the sprint for 2 more days. So we'll take 12 days and we will complete the remaining features. And then we will go for a sprint review meeting. B, ask to product owner for, ask to product owner for 2 days extension. C, stop the sprint on day 10 and demonstrate what you completed in 10 days. D, escalate for the decision. C, the right answer is C. That's the power of time box. Whether you finished all 10, yeah, time box, correct. Or only 8 or only 5 or only 4, doesn't matter. On day 10, it's like a mini project with a cutoff date. On that cutoff date, you stop the work. That's it, right? On day 10, the sprint is complete. You will go for sprint review meeting. Product owner, Scrum Master, and team will participate in that meeting. And the key word for the examination is to demonstrate what you completed in that sprint, those 8 features. The main objective of the demonstration is to get acceptance for what you completed or to get early feedback so you can understand the requirements and do better in the next iteration. So when you demonstrate in early sprints and all, they may not accept everything. They'll say, okay, this is good, but now we have some additional point. That is what Agile. Agile is a change-based methodology. You can make a change here, add this, modify this, do those changes, etc., and come back in another 2 weeks' time. Assume you demonstrated 8 features. In that, 5 got accepted. For 3, you got the feedback from your customer. You got a feedback for 3 and 5 got accepted. That is day 10, sprint review meeting is done. Product owner, you are demonstrating what you completed to the product owner, by the way. Or customer representative also can, customers can also be there, but usually product owner. Product owner accepted 5 deliverables and give feedback for 3. Question. This is assume sprint 1. What is the performance of sprint 1? Option A, you plan to do 10 features, so the performance is 100%. Option B, out of 10, you completed 8 features, so the performance is 80%. Option C, out of 10, 5 got accepted, so it is 50%. Option D, can't determine. What do you think is the performance of sprint 1? Is it 100% or 80% or 50% or can't determine? The right answer is Okay, it depends on, assume 8 stories as well. The right answer is C, 50%. You know, in Agile, it's either 0% complete or 100% complete. 100% complete when you got acceptance. So 5 features got accepted out of 10 you planned in that particular sprint. So the performance of that particular sprint is 50%. It is 50%. So like sprint review meeting will be also usually 2 hours for a 2-week sprint, 8 to 10, half an hour break. We'll have another meeting called sprint retrospective meeting. This meeting is mainly between team members. Okay, sprint retrospective meeting. This is actually to discuss about lessons learned from that sprint. There will be 3 agenda items for the retrospective meeting. What went right in the sprint? 2, what went wrong in the sprint? 3, what improvements we can make for the future sprints. These will be 3 agenda items to discuss. That's actually the 12th principle we discussed. At regular interval, the team will discuss to make the work more effective. So what went right? We did that, we did this. What went wrong? Why we haven't got acceptance for all? Why we couldn't complete all 10? This discussion will happen. And now we will see what improvements we can make from the lessons, what we learned from the sprint, what improvements we can make for the future sprints. In early sprint and all, there will be a number of improvements will be identified. We can do that, we can do this, etc. And you won't be able to implement all these changes in the immediate next sprint. Then when you will complete the work. So again, you will prioritize and you'll say these 3 top priority improvements we will implement in sprint 2, and then other sprints will implement the other improvements. And with that, you will finish with the sprint. So we discussed about important points for the PMP exam regarding Scrum methodology, mainly about the sprint. Everything is time boxed. Duration of a sprint is 2 weeks. A sprint starts with a sprint planning meeting between the product owner, Scrum Master and project team. From the prioritized product backlog, they decide what to do in that particular sprint and document it in the sprint backlog to fulfill the sprint goal they fixed. Every day for 15 minutes, there will be a daily stand-up meeting. At the end of the sprint, there's a time box. So if the duration is 10 days or 10 working days, in 10 days, they'll stop the sprint and they demonstrate what they completed in that sprint to the product owner. That meeting is called sprint review meeting. And after the sprint review meeting completed, then the team will have a sprint retrospective meeting, which is a lessons learned meeting, to discuss what went right, what went wrong, what improvements to make in the future sprints. That's the end of a sprint. Now, assume sprint 1 is complete, right? Maybe by noon, sprint 1 is complete. This is done here. Assume it's a weekend, Thursday. Next week, Sunday, you are going to start with a new sprint. Type in the chat box. When you start a new sprint, which ceremony you will conduct, which meeting you will conduct at the beginning of a sprint. No, sprint review happens at the end of the sprint. That is to demonstrate what you completed in that sprint. It will be sprint planning meeting. Okay. Now, after completing a sprint and before you start with a new sprint, there will be something happening which is called product backlog grooming. Okay. Now, at the beginning of the project, you had a product backlog. When you're doing the work, some new features got requested by the customer and we added to the product backlog. So maybe at the beginning of the sprint, we had 100 features. Now here we took 10 out. We took 10 out of the sprint backlog. Product backlog. And at the end, we finished 5. 2 we couldn't do. 3 we got the feedback. So that 5 will go back to product backlog. So now we have 95 features. 90 here, but 5 remaining from this. And maybe some new features got requested. So we are adding 10 more features. It becomes 105. And it is prioritized actually. So based on the new understanding, when we gave the demo, when we discussed with the stakeholders during the sprint, we got some idea. Accordingly, we prioritize. All these are known as product backlog grooming.
So
All these are known as.
So excuse me. So once sprint is completed, so the next before the next we will identify which product backlog we will prioritize for the next sprint, right? That is on the product planning time that they are discussing on the meeting, right?
No, this is not the planning for the next sprint. It is the planning for the whole project. This is about product backlog grooming. Product backlog is for the whole project, right?
So after product backlog, the sprint planning meeting will happen.
No, that we haven't got there yet. That is next week, new sprint. We haven't started a new sprint yet. After completing a sprint, we do something called product backlog grooming, and based on that, we will have an updated product backlog. That updated product backlog becomes the input for next sprint's sprint planning meeting. Is that clear to you?
Sir, one more question, sir. So, for example, first sprint we completed only 5 numbers. So remaining 5 will be backlog for the. So the remaining 5 we identified in the grooming, and we identify the total.
No,
scope.
remaining 5 we put it in the product backlog.
Product backlog. So second, maybe they not consider these 5. Maybe they maybe select another 10 numbers, right?
We are coming to that. We are coming to that. Okay. So now, as I told you, that 5 is coming in to the product backlog. Another 10 got added during the sprint. That is also in the product backlog. By the new understanding, we are reprioritizing the items in the product backlog. Okay. Now the question is, what you mentioned, what you asked. We couldn't finish 5 out of 10 in sprint 1. Something we've 3 finished, but we haven't got acceptance. We got feedback. Other 2 we couldn't do. Now, question is, these 5 features will be automatically will be added to the sprint backlog for sprint 2. Is this a true statement or is it a false statement? Not necessary to be. Since you couldn't finish 5 features in sprint 1, by default, it will be the part of sprint 2 is a false statement. Why? Because of product backlog grooming, right? What you haven't completed maybe is no longer a high priority feature. It goes down in the priority because of the new information what we have learned. Because of the new information what we have learned, it is no longer a high priority feature. So, in the sprint planning meeting of sprint 2, we will fix a sprint goal, right? What goal we are going to achieve, and for that goal, actually here, this is a new product backlog. For this goal, what features we have to choose, and if those features, are still relevant for sprint 2 goal, we will take it, or there will be additional or other features selected for sprint 2, and the same cycle continues. But in reality, many cases, what have been completed in sprint 1 becomes the part of sprint 2, theoretically not necessary. Even another next important point for the exam. Even though Scrum is a change-based methodology, during the sprint, no change allowed. During the sprint, no change allowed to the sprint. We are on day 2 or day 3 of sprint 1. Customer is coming and telling us, I have some new requirements. We will add it to the product backlog. We will not change the sprint backlog. Okay? Sprint backlog will not change. only product backlog. Customer says, no, this is high priority for me. The question is, can we do it in the next sprint, sprint 2? The answer is yes. Okay, fine. We will put it on top of the product backlog, do it in the next sprint. On the other hand, customer says, no, today is day 2 or day 3 of the current sprint. The team, what they're doing now is no longer important for me. What I gave you now is more important, or something else in the product backlog is more important. So assume you are somewhere here on day 2 or day 3. I'll just take 1 more minute to finish this. Okay, day 2 or day 3. And customer says, what I'm telling you is more important. In this case, you will cancel the current sprint. Who can cancel a sprint? Product owner. Product owner will say, okay, we got the feedback from the customer. What you're doing now is not, priority, cancelled. We will start a new sprint from that day with new sprint goal, with new sprint backlog, another sprint. So point for the exam, no changes allowed during a sprint. If you want to change something, you have to cancel that sprint and start a new sprint. Product owner is responsible for the changes in a product backlog or to cancel a sprint. That's all for today.